Right, we are on to part 6 of our Toyota Hilux Overland build series, and we've pretty much gone through most of the vehicle. We've got 2 more videos to go. This is the Barwork. We're talking about the bull bar in the front. We're talking about the roof racks on top, and we're going to talk about some of the things that I want to add but don't have money to add. So I guess it's kind of like a wish list for the future, and we'll discuss why I've installed the things I have installed and why I want to install things that I haven't yet installed. Let's get to it. Let's talk first about the bull bar, because it's one of my favorite features on this truck, or bucky, or ute, or whatever you want to call it. Nice and aggressive looking, but it's not just for looks. It has its purpose as well. I've had some very close calls in the past with animals on the road. I have come particularly close to hitting a kudu, which is very dangerous because they tend to be high enough to bounce over the bonnet and into the front of your car if you're not careful. And I've also come close to hitting various other animals on the road, but especially there's a part of the country called the Transkei where there's just livestock everywhere, and people don't drive through there for the sole reason that they fear for their lives when it comes to hitting stuff on the road. So having something like this which can protect you from hitting an animal in the road is great. It may be the difference between you losing your life or ending up in hospital or being safe. And also when it comes to car accidents, it's just that extra layer of protection. The same thing I know for a fact goes on in Australia. You don't go out in Australia in your 4x4 unless you have good bar work, because I know kangaroos are a big problem there. I'm not so sure about the US. I'm sure there's a risk of hitting a deer. I don't think it's as high as it is in Australia or Africa, but it's there. So that's one reason. Number 2 is clearance in the front. Look at your angle of approach here in the front. With a standard Toyota Hilux front bumper, the shape was quite a bit different. Look, the clearance wasn't bad, the angle of approach wasn't bad, but this just gives me the peace of mind in knowing that if I come to a steep approach and there are rocks there, I'm not going to lose my front bumper or damage it badly. I know that this is going to protect it. Third reason, recovery points. This bumper has 2 recovery points, one here, one there. I can fit shackles there, and I can have someone pull me out of trouble or winch me out if need be. Whereas with a standard vehicle, you don't have that. It's actually quite a big problem. And by the way, those things underneath there that a lot of people say are recovery points, those are tie-down points when they transport a vehicle. If you try and use a snatch strap to pull someone out of danger with that, there's a good chance you'll just break it, and then you're in very big trouble. Another reason, you can fit a winch in here. I don't have a winch just because I don't see myself going to places where I'm going to get seriously stuck. I've been in really dodgy conditions before, and I've been able to get out using my recovery tracks on top that are sitting on top of my roof. And those recovery tracks, unless you're in a very, very bad situation, they kind of get you out of most things. And if I was going to be in traveling to a place where I know I might get seriously stuck, I would have someone else come with me, and most likely have someone else that probably has a winch. So I'll get it if I really think I need it, but for now it's okay. And there's also other points on this, this front bumper to add lights, to add a antenna for radio up on the top. You can do all kinds of things there. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention, this is made by Arrow Automotive in South Africa. I don't think they sell them anywhere else, but it was the cheapest one I could find. I couldn't find any information about it online, but it was significantly cheaper than like an ARB or an Ironman or TJM or Onka or Wild Dog, which are all great, by the way. This was just much cheaper, and to be honest, this thing is flipping solid. It looks good. The materials look strong, and because it's a Hilux and we don't have all those, parking sensors and all that stuff, I don't have to worry about from an electronics point of view. It's basically just lights and that's it. So pretty straightforward, and I'm really happy with it. I would If you're in South Africa, look at the arrows, nothing wrong with them whatsoever. Before we get to the roof racks, which is quite a big talking point, let me tell you quickly about my wish list for this vehicle. These steps that come standard on the Hilux and many other trucks are pretty much a waste of time when it comes to vehicle protection. All they really do is they lower your vehicle clearance. They're there to stand on. That's basically it, to help you get into your vehicle if you're an old granny. But they're basically made of plastic and aluminium, and if they hit anything solid like a rock, they'll break off. What they do protect your vehicle against are stones being flicked up by the front wheels and striking the bodywork and the paint. So I've left them on to protect from there. But when I can afford it, I will hopefully be able to upgrade to some decent rock sliders, just so that I've got that extra protection from big rocks and stuff like that. But it's something that I just can't afford right now. The other thing that I would very much like to get eventually but can't afford right now is a rear bumper. And I know you think, yeah, it's probably just for looks, but to be honest, it's more than that. The main thing is that I've hit this piece here so many times on rocks, and if I hit it one or two more times, this thing is going to basically snap off. It's bent up so many times, but it will snap off eventually. I've already had to replace this. So having a rear bumper that has a little space for that in the bumper itself will help in that I'm not going to be able to bash that on rocks. Plus the rear bumper has extra recovery points if I get a good one. And lastly, the rear bumper, if I get a good aftermarket one, I can fit a spare wheel mount. And a spare wheel mount, having a spare wheel on the back, which will allow me to fit a long range tank underneath where my spare wheel is. The Hilux only has like an 80-litre fuel capacity, I believe. That's fine. If I carry like 20 litres of extra fuel, I'll get at least 1,000 kilometers, I think, 800, 900 kilometers. But for really long trips like up through Namibia or the Richtersveld, I'm probably going to want something more. We're about to send you up like a crane, so I hope you're strapped in. Roof racks. So up here, what we have is a front runner roof rack on the back attached to the canopy. And we also have a front runner roof rack in the front beneath the front runner rooftop tent. So I suppose it begs the question, why two roof racks? Do I need the extra storage space? What is that all about? Well, the main reason is basically that I originally first put the rear roof rack on, and then I realized, flip, if I put the roof tent on the rear roof rack, it basically takes up all the space that I need. And I really wanted to have extra space on the roof, firstly for those recovery tracks, which I don't necessarily want to store inside the vehicle because they can get full of mud and all that stuff. But also for tying down, let's say you've got waste from a campsite. You don't want to really put rubbish inside your vehicle. Even if it's in a bag, it can stink. If you want to carry firewood that's got little pieces of stuff falling off, or beetles you want to tie to the roof. If you want to carry maybe a second spare wheel, you can tie it to the roof. So I wanted to leave the space at the back open. And that brings me to the second point. The roof rack that I put on top of the cab, the Toyota Hilux roof only has a load rating of 75 kilograms maximum. And that's obviously, it's quite low, but it's obviously because on a Hilux you're going to be roughing it, and that constant shaking about can really rip stuff off the roof. So 75 kilos is all I had to work with. Front runner roof rack on the cab is 25 kilos. Front runner rooftop tent is 42 kilos. It's one of the lighter tents you can get, and that ends up being under 75, and that it all fits pretty well. And I know that I can basically just put the rooftop tent on the front, and on the back I can put anything else that I might need. So that's the idea of having two roof racks. So here's another view of what's on top. Rooftop tent is right in the front there, and then on the back I've got space for recovery tracks, which I made a homemade mount for, but pretty easy to get off. And then all the space here I've got tie down points down here for another ammo box, which is my rubbish bag when I'm camping, and then a whole lot of extra space for tying down firewood or putting a duffel bag on top full of extra clothing or whatever I want. Why have I chosen Front Runner for the roof rack? Well, basically down to the point that firstly they're a South African company. So roof racks is something that South Africa seems to be doing pretty well with. We've got Easy On makes the K9 roof racks, which are absolute legends. There's a lot of guys in the US that use those, and there's a lot of guys in the US and Australia and all over the world that are now using the Front Runners as well. They're solid products, very modular. You can basically, there's so many aftermarket attachments for them, and that's probably the main reason that I went for the Front Runner. Very easy to attach stuff to them. You basically just need a M8 bolt, and you can just find that at any hardware store. You slide it in the slot, you put it exactly where you want it, and you can tie stuff down, so it makes it very easy to build like tie down points and compartments for them. So for example, the Front Runner rooftop tent, which I'll get to in the next video, has quick disconnect mounts, so you can easily lift off and put on the rooftop tent. Well, I say easily, you need a strong person to help you. But those quick disconnect mounts fit so easily onto the Front Runner roof rack. It seems to be the natural choice. The one thing I do not like about the Front Runner roof rack is that the bars go from side to side. You can wave goodbye to your fuel economy. I think it would probably be slightly better if you got something like a K9 roof rack, which goes front to back. But I still think roof racks in general are not great for fuel economy, particularly if you have a rooftop tent. You're gonna notice a big difference, and it's noisy. You're gonna hear as you're driving in the vehicle. So keep that in mind if you want to put a roof rack on. Only for the roof rack if you absolutely need it. I absolutely needed a roof rack, even if I did not have the rooftop tent, and even if I did not need to tie stuff down, because I have the quick pitch awning, which is pretty heavy, and you need something pretty solid to mount that to. Spreading the load over the whole canopy instead of just on the one side, a roof rack was the only real way to do that, and that awning is pretty heavy as well. It's an awesome awning, but it's heavy, so a good roof rack was required. If I had to change anything on my roof rack, what would it be? Look, if anything, I would have possibly wanted to go with a K9, just because it goes front to back and they've got a really good reputation. But to be honest, the Front Runner has an incredible reputation as well. There's no real proof that I've seen online that these are any less aerodynamic than the K9. So that's just kind of my own speculation, but I'm very happy with this, and I would strongly recommend Front Runner products to anyone. In the next episode, we will be discussing shelter, rooftop tent, and awning. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.